Hey there. Before we jump into today's episode, we want to thank you for tuning into Unapologetically First Gen. This is the podcast where two sisters share what it's like to grow up as first-generation immigrants, everything from the hilarious moments to the heartfelt ones. Each week, we'll bring you personal stories, honest conversations, and amazing guest interviews that celebrate the first-gen experience. So if you love laughing, learning, and feeling connected, you're in the right place. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share the podcast with your friends. It really helps us grow. If you want to contribute to episode topics and get exclusive content, join our Patreon linked in the show notes.
Hello, I'm Stacy, the younger sister. I'm a former teacher turned copywriter, cat mom, and slightly obsessed with romantasy books.
And I'm Leslie, the older one, operations expert, home baker, mom to 2 kids, and a bunny.
So welcome back to another episode of Unapologetically First Gen. Today we are talking about sticky situations with language differences. So when you are bilingual, sometimes things in your brain just don't work right. And it's just like a normal thing when you have twice as many words in your brain as other people. And if you speak more than 2 languages, then you have like 3 times or 4 times as many words. But for me, there's definitely things that I'm way better at in a certain language versus the other language. And this episode is all about all of these little challenges and mishaps that happen with language differences. So, Leslie, what's your number one sticky situation for a language?
Closing the light, closing the TV.
Wait, what's the right way?
I think you're supposed to shut off the light and not close the light. No, you are. You are supposed to shut off the light or shut off the TV.
What's the difference between turn off and shut off?
Turn off the TV. Shut off the TV. I wasn't expecting a quiz.
No, I'm genuinely curious because now I'm not sure what the right answer is.
Okay, we're going to do some on the spot here. Turn off versus shut off. Okay. Turn off typically refers to stopping the operation of a device or the flow of something like electricity or water by moving a switch or a knob, while shut off implies a more forceful or complete cessation of a flow or operation, often with a valve or similar mechanism. So you would shut off the water to your house, but you would turn off the tap.
Okay.
The examples are turn off the lights, turn off the water, turn off the oven. The shut off, I didn't even see this before I said it. Shut off the water valve, shut off the gas, shut off the power. And then there's shut down because you shut down a computer.
What do you do to your car when you leave your car?
Do you shut off?
Do you turn it off? I don't know. We should have really had an American on here to help us.
Okay. Please enjoy us as we fumble through this episode, and then we'll re-record it with a linguist expert later.
I think the one that I didn't learn for years and years and years was deixar a porta encostada, which is to not shut the door all the way, but just to leave it ajar.
Leave the door ajar is so ugly.
But in Portuguese, the literal translation is to lean the door. And that makes sense because you're not really shutting it, but you're also not leaving it open. It's not a term that I feel Americans use that often, but it is a term Portuguese people use very often.
Yeah, I use it all the time. And I've just started saying it in Portuguese to my husband.
Encosta a porta.
You gotta learn Portuguese. By the way, you can both shut off or turn off your vehicle.
Okay, good to know. Thank you for the update. We're learning here today.
This is a great thing. What is yours? Do you have something besides leave the door ajar that you're...
I think my most embarrassing one is constipated, because you all know what constipated means in English, but in the Portuguese word constipada means congested. Thank you. Why is this so hard? This is really like the TSL challenge episode.
Constipada is the word I mentally translate to.
It's a really good example of a false cognate. So 2 words that sound the same but actually have different meanings. So constipada in Portuguese is congested. I don't even know what the word for constipated is now that I'm thinking about it in Portuguese.
That's a good question.
But that was always something that I always have to think about it, and it's something that I struggled with for a long time because I thought they meant the same thing. And so people would be like, oh, you're sick, and I'd be like, I'm constipated, but like that's not actually that's not actually what I was trying to say. Sometimes there's those false cognates that are kind of really tricky.
I don't think you're alone.
That people who speak Spanish have to have that struggle too, because I'm pretty sure they have the same problem as us.
Probably. I mean, I guess you're sort of congested when you're constipated. What types of things do you mentally translate?
Oh man.
From Portuguese to English when you're speaking in English.
Definitely cleaning things, routines around the house. Those are things that are more Portuguese in my brain because they've always been Portuguese in my brain. But it's just like every once in a while you just forget a word in a specific language. Like the other day I won a raffle with a bunch of fidget toys from my niece's school, and one of the things in it was shaving cream. I could not for the life of me think of the words shaving cream. I was thinking in my brain, I was like the beard cream. And it's in Portuguese, that's what it is. It's the cream of the beard.
Yeah.
But I could not. I'm literally sitting there and I'm like, sometimes I have to open Google Translate because I'm like, what is that word? And it's a super common word and you just like cannot think of it. It's tricky.
Yeah, it is. And I have those moments all the time where, and this happens a lot when I'm tired. It's like my brain is like, we cannot work at full capacity. Let's shut down the English-speaking side of things. And I cannot, I'll struggle to think of words. And the other time I struggle with English is when either I've been to Portugal or I've been surrounded by Portuguese people, or even I've been home with the kids all day and we've just been speaking Portuguese, and then suddenly Dad's home and we're bilingual now. And it's not always automatic.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because, for me, most of my thought processes are in English. Every once in a while, I'll have a dream in Portuguese. But I notice when I go there, it starts to shift. My Portuguese starts to take over more and more, and it becomes harder to remember those English words. It's the whole idea of if you don't use it, you lose it. But it's interesting to see how fast that shift is, because 2 weeks there and my thought processes start happening in Portuguese versus English.
Yeah, I get that. I also have that experience. Funny enough, the only time I dream in Portuguese is when I'm dreaming of family, but more specific to that. Like if you're in my dream, we're speaking English because we typically speak English to each other. But if I'm dreaming about mom and dad, if I'm dreaming about grandparents, if I'm dreaming about people who are prior generations, like people I've never met who are prior generations, then all of those dreams are in Portuguese. So it's very rooted in almost ancestral dreams.
Interesting.
Are all in Portuguese. If I'm dreaming about aunts and uncles, Portuguese. But if I'm dreaming about if cousins are in my dreams,
English.
Except for the cousins in Portugal.
Interesting. Of course, obviously. Your brain is very logical.
Why would I speak to like my cousins in Portugal in English in my dreams? I think I've never had a dream with him, but we do have a cousin. He's a second cousin that we just reconnected with in the last year, and we speak a very fluent mix of Portuguese and English. Like the three of us have a chat, and it's both languages, and it switches. There's no rhyme or reason to when we're speaking one language or another. I've never had a dream with him, but I wonder if he was to appear in one of my dreams, what language it would be, because we didn't grow up with him.
Right.
And then our as we're sort of building this relationship with him, it's been in both languages. He's an artist, and all the media that he's in is in Portuguese. So I wonder if my brain would be like, oh, he's a Portuguese cousin, so speak to him in Portuguese. It'll just be really interesting. So I have to try to have like a non-lucid dream about him.
Yeah.
So I can control it, and then I'll report back.
I think with the language differences, one of the things that gets me a little bit frustrated is my English being so much stronger than my Portuguese. So much of that is I have several degrees all done in English. My Portuguese education basically goes through high school. But then there are topics that I really want to get into in Portuguese, like when I went there this year and people are asking me about politics and what do I think of what's going on. I have all of the words in English, but to get it out with the same nuance as I can in English. It's really hard because I don't have that same level of vocabulary when it comes to like issues around capitalism and fascism and like LGBTQIA rights and all of these things.
Women's rights.
Yeah, I don't really have the vocabulary for how to talk about it because most of the Portuguese that I've been surrounded with is like very like community based, it's family based, it's church based. It's not really that deep critical thinking of what you would do in college or what you would do at these higher level orders of thinking. That's something that really frustrates me, is being able to read something in English and then struggling to read the same text in Portuguese. I'm just so much slower. I have to pause and really think about what am I reading. And then I feel the same when I'm trying to like speak my mind. It just feels harder. And while I consider myself fluent, like there's a lot of areas of vocabulary that I am just not super familiar with. So it's hard to communicate about those topics.
Would you be able to describe what you do for a living in Portuguese?
Honestly, before my trip, no. After my trip, yes. Because I had to kind of fumble my way through it. And they're like, oh, you do this. Like, you're in publicidad, which is like publicity, which is like not really what I do. But yes, that's what I do.
Yeah. I would have no idea how to describe my business in Portuguese. I have the same issues, and there's so much I want to read. And I do try, like I follow Portuguese media on social media. I try to listen to Portuguese influencers or people who post in Portuguese just so I can get that vocab that I need. I mean, I do a Portuguese lesson every day.
Same.
Yeah, and I do try to do that to kind of up the vocab, but it is hard because at this age, your brain isn't absorbing it as easily as it had been before. And I almost want to go there and be like, can I just sit with a professor and be like, tell me what you do, but slowly. Tell me what you teach, but slowly.
But that's the thing, is your brain wants to communicate in the easiest way possible. And for us, a lot of the times, English is the easiest way possible, except when it's not.
Right.
And so that's why your brain is like, why are you trying to do this the hard way? Like, you already have a way to communicate this.
It's interesting. You called yourself fluent. I hesitate to do that. I think I am fluent, but I really hesitate to do that because I know where the holes in my vocabulary are. And so I'm like, am I fluent? I really struggle with calling myself fluent, but then I say things like, well, Portuguese is my first language, and people are like, well, how are you not fluent in it? And it's like, I don't really know what the threshold is for calling myself fluent.
I would say you're fluent. I would say if you can go there and navigate society and community with the language, even if you have to look things up. I had to look things up when I was there. I think I told the story of the Velcro on one of the episodes where I was like, how do I say Velcro? It's Velcro. So I think there's always going to be times where you're like, oh, I don't feel super confident or I don't really know. But I think being able to go there and to communicate well and just be able to like get the point across, right? That's the whole point of speaking a language, is you communicate what you want to say. And I think that because you can do that, I would say that you're fluent. And that's like why I call myself fluent.
That makes sense. Yeah, it might be more a confidence thing, I think. Especially because our families grew up on this very rural island. There is a little bit of people from, we call it the continent, which is just mainland Portugal, historically have looked down on the people in the islands, which is not being intelligent enough.
We actually have a friend from the continent. We'll try to get him on this podcast so that you can see this happening in real time.
And, I mean, to be fair, our parents learned everything that they were going to learn in schooling in 4 years. They only had school through the 4th grade, so it's really not fair to look down on a population as uneducated when it's like, well, your government didn't provide the education.
Which, by the way, if you are wondering what a government looks like without a Department of Education, that is what it looks like. It looks like a 4th grade education.
I know, with the Department of Education, Americans are only reading at like a 6th grade level. So I could read at a 6th grade level in Portuguese, so I guess...
So you're good.
I guess I'm good. I read just as well in Portuguese as most Americans read in English. I really wish I had just taken a dive and gone to Portugal for school.
I know, but it's one of those things where it's like, Was the opportunity really there? And like, even if it was, I think that we were still really in survival mode to be thinking about, let's study abroad and get to know my culture. Yeah. I remember one time somebody asked me, why didn't you study abroad? That wasn't even a consideration for me. My consideration was, can I get through college? Can I pay off my student loans? And I was working the whole time. I didn't have the money for a flight.
I know. I don't know why I even said that, because I think I know I said that. Saying it now is like, yeah, I wish I had done that. But then it's like, I wasn't even going to school full time most semesters. I was working full time. And I only did a handful of semesters with enough credits to be considered a full-time student.
So wild. But your kids can go study abroad if they want.
I know. Funny enough, when we're thinking about, close the light, my kids say that.
They say close the light?
They say close the light. And then,
well, it's because they learn it from their grandparents in Portuguese and you.
And me. I probably say it too. I mean, I'm sure I said it. The other one I never know. I literally had to ask my husband for a lesson on this. What's the difference between a cup and a glass?
Like a wine glass.
When would you use... This is water in it. What is this?
I mean, I know the answer is a glass of water.
What does your brain tell you it is?
But I would say a cup of water.
I would say a cup of water, too. I'm going to go get a cup of water, which in English means 8 ounces of water.
Oh, it's like a volume thing?
I think so. But, like, this is a glass of water. Like, that's actually what people are asking for, speaking of which.
Because in Portuguese, it's one word. You just use the word for glass. Or for
use
cup.
The word for cup. Use the word for cup. Cup of water. A cup of wine.
Yeah, that's true.
A cup of coffee, which apparently is the correct way to say it. You don't say a mug of coffee. So
that's true. See? It's nuanced.
It is nuanced, but apparently I say it wrong frequently, but that's one that I have to pause and correct every single time I'm thirsty.
I also struggle with floor versus ground.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just the chão. It's just the chão. It's just the floor. It doesn't matter if it's inside or outside. Why do we have 2 words? It is where you put your feet.
Obviously. Like, tattoo is ceiling and roof, I think. Is there a word for roof?
I think you might be right.
I'm going to look it up because I'm
curious. We're going to have some, like, actual professional Portuguese speakers be like, you're wrong.
You're so wrong. The roof needs repair work. Let's do repairs.
Because then you have telhado.
It's telhado is roof.
Okay.
Tattoo is ceiling. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. There's some words that I've just never come across. Like that I've never had to talk about the roof in Portuguese.
Yeah, because why would you? When it's just not a situation that's going to naturally come up unless you're buying a house there.
Right. Which, like, I haven't. So, that's why that hasn't come up.
But it's interesting. I feel like I was really challenged to talk about a lot of things when I last went there, mostly because everyone's talking about the U.S. and the U.S. news, and they're like, what's your opinion on it, American? And I'm like, well...
I have a lot of opinions on it. I just cannot state them as articulately as I can.
I got into debates, too, with some of our cousins.
I would like to hear about those more thoroughly offline.
Yes, I think I don't want to... That's like a whole nother podcast episode.
Oh my gosh. Would listeners be interested in those cousins coming on and debating American politics?
Cousins from a different country coming on.
From a different country. We should have the cousin that... I mean, I want him on anyway, but the cousin that said fuck capitalism on live television.
Oh, yes. We'll get him.
He doesn't even know yet, but he's going to be on this podcast. He'll do it.
Hasn't even listened. Who knows?
I did send him I was like, did you know we have a podcast? And he was really excited for us.
Hey, we talk about you, so you have to listen now.
Now, when this episode comes out, I'm going to specifically be like, we talked about you at least twice.
At least.
In this episode.
It's interesting, too, like, talking about that cousin, because when he came here, one of the things he said was, I feel like my English is so good, and then I come to the U.S. and I realize it's trash. And that's a sentiment that I've had, and it didn't really happen this time around, but previous times that I've been to Portugal, where I'll try speaking Portuguese and people respond to me in English, and I'm like, I'm trying to practice, like I'm trying to do my thing here. But I will say this time around, maybe it's because it wasn't the summertime, because there's less tourists around. Nobody was doing that at all.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm like, I could live here and not be an outsider.
You could. I hate when that happens to me in Spanish-speaking countries. I'm trying to learn your language. Could you please just humor me? Just humor me.
I will say, I feel like we can navigate Spanish-speaking countries pretty well.
I think my Spanish is good enough to navigate a touristy part of a Spanish-speaking country in Spanish.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's any other sticky language situations. What about grammar-wise? Like, not necessarily vocabulary, but the ways that you structure sentences.
This is not related to what you said, but I just thought of another one that always is embarrassing. If I come across a word I've never heard before on reading, I cannot, for the life of me, implement English reading rules to it and read the word in English. I will read it in Portuguese, even though it's an English word. And I don't know how to make that switch. It's just sort of like, oh, new word. My brain has decided that the Portuguese reading rules apply to this word.
It's funny that you say that because I think so much of my English vocabulary came from books.
Oh, yeah, a lot of it. Both of us are really big readers. So, unfortunately, a lot of my vocabulary also comes from books, and that also means that I pronounce a lot of words wrong.
Oh.
I was watching a show this morning, and I also watch TV with the captions on, sometimes in English, sometimes in Portuguese, but they pronounce the name of a city in the show, and I was like, I have been pronouncing that wrong for 30 years.
I didn't know Yosemite was the same place that I was reading about in my books, because for years I thought it was Yosemite. Never made that connection.
Yosemite makes so much sense.
I know.
Or like Nassau is NASA.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that for years, and then I said it out loud to someone, and they like laughed, and they were like, "What the hell are you talking about? That's not how you pronounce it." And I was like, "Then why is there a U there?"
But if I had never been there, I wouldn't have known that.
I had never been there at that point when I made this, and then every time I hear it, I get embarrassed all over. I can't believe I'm sharing this publicly, but whatever. But like every time I hear someone say NASA, and I'm like, I'm embarrassed. I'm so embarrassed. But I think that's not just a bilingual thing. I think that's a thing with big readers.
That's true.
We just have a lot of words in our brains that we just haven't heard out loud yet.
I just think that it's bilingual because that was the way we learned the second language.
Yeah, but we just had one, you and I, where I said something wrong, and I was like, well, that's how you would pronounce it if you read it in Portuguese, and you were like, but it's English. And I was like, I know, but I don't know how to do that. I have to, like, play with the word for a bit.
I do remember, I have this memory of a high school history class. We were all reading out of a textbook, and it was something about Portuguese navigation. I was reading out loud, and I got to one of the names of the Portuguese navigators, and I was like, I have no idea how to say this in English. And, the teacher was like, just say it in Portuguese. You'll be saying it correctly. But in my brain, it never even made sense to me to switch at that point, even though it was a Portuguese name.
Yep, that makes sense.
So
That your brain was like, we're speaking English, so let's say it in English.
Exactly.
See, my brain would get to that word, and regardless of what language it's in, it would be like, say it in Portuguese.
Well, if you are listening, I would love to know, what are some words that you struggle with? What are some sticky situations knowing two languages have got you in? Anything else, Leslie?
If you are a Portuguese language teacher, maybe reach out and teach us how to say give us some vocab lessons.
Give us some vocab lessons. Let us know about your sticky languages situations on our Patreon. If you haven't joined yet, make sure to get on there. And you can also upgrade to get behind the scenes and fun stuff. All right. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time. If this episode resonated with you or you have your own first gen stories to share, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on Stacy Braga Copy or Streamline with Leslie on both Threads and Instagram, linked in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share the podcast with someone who'd love it. Until next time, keep embracing your roots and making your own path.